Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first IMDRC teaching conference. My name is Nancy Getchell, and I'm from the University of Delaware. And today I'm going to talk about using a flipped classroom to teach motor development. In a traditional classroom, we often consider the lecturer to be the sage on the stage. In a flipped classroom, the lecturer is more of a guide on the side. Let's do a deeper dive into the comparison between a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom. In a traditional classroom, we call it sage on the stage because basic knowledge is presented in class in a lecture format. This is followed by assignments that students do at home. And in general, assessments are through examination and those assignments done at home. And this is instructor-centered. With a flipped classroom and guide on the side, background knowledge is presented outside of class and prior to class through blended formats, through readings or videos or other means. In-class time is focused on synthesizing knowledge through active learning. And then follow-up assignments are provided to allow students to process this information. So this is a learner-centered classroom. Let's compare a typical week for the two classrooms. In a traditional classroom, we have our students, generally we have them read an assignment before our first lecture on Tuesday, then we lecture again on the remaining content on Thursday, and we follow that up with an assignment. With a flipped classroom, we use a prepare, practice, and process structure. So we prepare on the Monday with some sort of blended content. We practice on Tuesday with a short lecture with the key points and then some activities. Same on Thursday, we're doing more activities. And then we have a process-oriented synthesis assignment over the weekend or on Friday. So why did I consider doing a flipped classroom in motor development? For a long time, I'd used service learning, but that experience disappeared. I was not able to do that anymore, and I no longer had a laboratory or a lab, a gymnasium to do labs in, and I had an increase in my class size substantially. So now what? What do we do? I wanted to provide meaningful active learning opportunities given that these parameters. So I looked into a flipped classroom. Now let's look at what I needed to do to create a flipped classroom. First, I had to look through my syllabus and determine what the critical content was for the entire semester. Next, once I had that content, I created modules and I had to create high quality blended content that are aligned with that critical content. And this is the prepare portion for the students. Next, I had to create some active learning activities that tap into that critical content. So this is the assignments that in-class assignments that are the practice. And for that, I really needed to consider the time that I had per class period and the space available to me within that class. Finally, I had to create meaningful out-of-class synthesis assignments. That's the process portion. And then I had to balance the assessment weights to reflect the time that students spent in and out of class. I used the Haywood and Getchell textbook, no one's surprised there, and I created 5 different modules. So that's the critical content. I called the first module, What is Motor Development? Covered the first 3 chapters. Then development of motor skills across the lifespan, physical growth and aging, perceptual motor development, and outside influences in motor development. So that was the critical content. For each module, I had to create high quality content for students to prepare for our in-class meeting. So this generally included 15 to 20-minute pre-recorded lectures, so 2 or 3 per module, but also other relevant video recordings that I could get from the internet, um, readings, so usually one chapter, and between 1 and 3 supplemental readings that are highly content related, and a knowledge check. That's what I called them. That's due prior to class. It's a low stakes knowledge check. Now, these were available from the beginning of the semester. So from day one, they had that content available to them, and the deadline was always the night before class with no extensions. In a flipped classroom, in class is considered practice. So for our practice, I'd often give a short key points lecture, 15 minutes at most, oftentimes shorter than that, then in class group work assignments that can be completed in 60 minutes, so during the course of the class. And I used movement based wherever possible. So either the students moved or we used videos. Some of the parts of this that were important, the students could not complete the assignment if they were not in class. That helped with attendance. All work had some sort of a written component that they might do outside of class. And the emphasis was on content learning and on feedback. The process portion is the outside of class synthesis of information. So for this, within each module, I have key questions based on the in-class learning assignment that students answer on their own after class. Also across modules, I have a larger semester-long project or projects that reflect content understanding as people go along throughout the class. Finally, I have module quizzes at the end of each module that are more standard in format. Now, for this information, this process portion should be individual. So while they might work in groups in class, they're all going to turn in individual assignments that they work on their self or by themselves. That's original work. And then finally, it should be progressive. That means I've started at the beginning of the semester, have them work on some basic concepts, and then as the semester goes along, they are adding to that assignment. For this, I have them do, it's borrowed from Jane Clark, but I have them do a motor development autobiography of their own developmental trajectory in one or more activities. And this works out really well because they can add to it throughout the semester as they learn additional concepts. In terms of assessment, we start with the module quizzes. So we have 1 per module, and they're valued at 45%. And the students like that because they understand what a quiz is. So they're used to studying for module quizzes. The knowledge checks, these are lower stakes, graded to incentivize this preparation outside of class, and then help with the self-assessment of learning. So that's 10% low stakes. You either did it or you didn't. I have the assignments that follow each week. They're either in class or out of class. And oftentimes I'll have the students start in class. So if we're doing something like developmental sequences, we'll watch videos in class, we'll do work in class, and then the students will have to finish that work outside of class. And then major projects. So those are those semester-long projects. For participation and engagement, I have a requirement that they can't miss class because it's essential to learning for the students to be in class. So to end, I just want to go through the pros and cons of flipped classroom for motor development. Some of the pros are that it provides student-centered active learning, and it also provides a dynamic classroom environment where there's a lot going on and students enjoy it. We have content-specific problem solving, which is great, collaboration, and improved student learning outcomes. Now, there are cons. So the biggest con is that some students don't prepare outside of class, no matter how you incentivize it. So if they don't prepare outside of class, then it's a disaster in class. There's also a heavy workload outside of class. There are high technology requirements, lots of preparation time for the instructor, and for those of you who are going for promotion and tenure, you might consider this. Oftentimes, students don't like it, particularly the first few semesters, so you might have reduced student evaluation scores. So I'm very happy to talk to you all about flipped classrooms and motor development, and thank you for listening to my presentation.